Excellent. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's Jez Tromans here from VideoBiker, and welcome to what I believe to be the UK's and the DVSA's first ATB and motorcycle-related webinar. So, I think we're really breaking some new ground here and exploring an exciting new way of bringing information and support directly to your office wherever you might be in the UK. So I've introduced myself. I'm joined today by two very experienced instructors, and I'm going to introduce first of all Paul Barrett. Paul Barrett's a very experienced CBT and DAS instructor. He's a partner at RMT Motorcycle Training in the West Midlands. And what's interesting about Paul is I believe he was one of the very, very first ERS instructors back in its day when it first got started. So we're delighted to have Paul with us. Paul's going to be moderating today. So if you guys are, if you're chatting, and I'd encourage you to do that, please do that. You're chatting with Paul, but you're also chatting with Laura. Laura is also a very experienced CBT and DAS instructor. She runs woman-only motorcycle training. She's also a partner at RMT Motorcycle Training in the West Midlands at the Redditch branch. And interestingly, Laura is one of the most recent ERS instructors, signed up very recently, along with 30 that I believe have signed up in the last couple of days. So things are really moving and looking up for ERS and moving in a very positive direction. I've got to take a moment now to just say thank you to the people that have paid for this webinar. I think it's important to do that. Two very special companies. I'm hoping they're online with us. We've got Peter, who's the managing director from Airvest. These guys have pitched up with some funds to pay for today's webinar, so our thanks to them. But on top of that, just really an acknowledgement of the wonderful job you're all doing out there in the various ATB'S around the country. They, recognizing just how pivotal you are to the industry, they've both given their biggest ever discounts, which we're absolutely delighted for. They're exclusively for DVSA certified instructors and DVSA certified ATB'S. So on the Hellite Airvest, you can get as an instructor 33% off, their biggest ever discount. And I don't know whether you've come across this product before. We've reviewed them and sort of tested them at various meetings we've been at. And there is absolutely no doubt that the Hellite turtle technology, in not our opinion, but the opinion of the industry, is the gold standard in Airvest right now. It's being used exclusively around the UK by a lot of professional riders and the police forces and what have you. Take a Bite. Let's move over to Damien. Damien is managing director of Take a Bite, and most people know about Take a Bite, but if you don't, and if you've yet to explore the concept of online ordering of CBT and DAS courses, Take a Bite is the UK's only exclusive online booking system for ATB'S. It's a phenomenal bit of kit. And as a marketeer, what I really like about it is the fact I see very, very real evidence of it saving a great deal of money and a great deal of time for those motorcycle training schools that use Take a Bite. Regarding the chat, we'll collate everything that you guys write, all the questions you ask, anything you put into the webinar. We'll collate that, we'll get it over to the DVSA. Okay, it now falls on me really just to introduce our main speaker. Doesn't really need introducing, but nonetheless, I'm going to introduce to you Chris Parr is Assistant Chief Driving Examiner with a heavy weight of motorcycle responsibility on his shoulders, joining us live. What I'd like to say is well done for embracing this as a medium of communicating out to ATB'S. As I said before, it's the first time this has happened in the motorcycle sector. So Chris, are you with us, sir? Can we get you online?
I am, Jez. Good to speak to you, and thanks for setting this up. It's a really good opportunity for us to engage with our stakeholders, and for me the key ones being the motorcycle ones. Okay, so like I say, thanks for giving us this opportunity. This is a presentation we delivered to some of our stakeholders at Cardington early in the year to explain what the changes were around ERS, DVSA's Enhanced Rider Scheme, and what we hope to achieve by it. So what's new? Obviously you'll see a new logo, so we've changed the branding. And there'll be an example of that later on. We changed the qualification process. Again, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. We've revised the syllabus. We've got a twofold syllabus. It's a modular syllabus with some core modules and then some additional modules that riders can take. We tried to digitalize the whole process. One of the big downfalls of the old process was it was a paper-based system. So everything's now available online. Information's available online. You can download the application forms online. You can have access to some of our promotional stuff online. So hopefully that's a huge step forward. One of the biggest things we've had to do is revise all the information on gov.uk. That's probably what delayed the launch of this earlier, because there was so much information that needed changing. So If there's anyone listening from our comms team, thanks very much for all the help on that. That was a really good piece of work. Data. One of the things we didn't do before when ERS was first launched was capture the data from the people taking it. Again, with it being a paper-based system, people would post in all the details of the candidates, and we had to put it on a web base. So now we've got digital capture of all the data. It'll help us. It'll help us understand how many people are taking it. It'll help us understand what regions are promoting ERS really well and what the uptake is. And it could help us convince the insurance companies to, in the future, to maybe offer even bigger discounts for people who do ERS if we can prove, how successful the product is. Certificate, we've got a new certificate which is downloadable. So once you've given us your data, following your completion of ERS, you can download the certificate for the candidate. Marketing. You may have seen we've been doing a lot of marketing since the launch. We managed to get an interview with Mark Wynne in Motorcycle News promoting the scheme. And I know some of the trade press have also covered it. That's the external marketing. Internally, we've got posters up in all our test centres following the completion of satisfactory completion or passing of the DAS test. People have been given some leaflets as well promoting ERS, and it's something that we're going to continue doing, not just throughout this year but going forwards with ERS.
Do you know, Chris, one of the things I've been picking up on, it's just really encouraging, is the team here have spoken to a lot of instructors around the UK the last sort of 7-10 days, and one of the most positive things people are picking up on is the new logo, the fact that it is now, it's now DVSA, it's got the crown logo, and that there isn't another scheme currently that has that. It's a very significant thing. So I just want to feed that back to you. We've got some common feedback that has come, and that's come very, very strong and fast. People really like the logo. They like the crown logo, in particular the DVSA endorsement of it.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because one of the things I was really keen on doing was giving it the DVSA brand. The scheme before was set up and ran very well, but it did lack the DVSA backing, or people were unsure that it was backed by DVSA. So having the new logo and the branding, is really, really good.
Yeah, another thing just picking up on there, Chris, is regarding how you've simplified the certification. It's a lot simpler. I know from what you said earlier, there is a work in progress. There's constant improvement to be made. If somebody mentioned yesterday just how well received the certification is and how well it can be facilitated online now in a much easier format. But with that also the sense of achievement that comes with that, and then how that's communicated to the customer when they pass ERS.
Oh, that's really, really good to hear. That's the kind of things I don't get to hear so often. So that's a really positive bit of feedback. Thanks. One of the big problems with the old scheme was people didn't know where it was pitched at. Is it advanced? Was it enhanced? Who could do it? Who should do it? We do between 45 and 50,000 tests a year. We thought that was probably the best market to aim Enhanced Rider Scheme at. People who've just passed the test, or people who've coming back to biking after a long break, but who may need some extra instruction. So we're pitching it to the new riders. That's where the captive audience is, and I think for ATB'S, that's where they're going to get the most buy-in from selling ERS. So if you have a look at the little stepping stones, we've got the CBT, we've got the DAS, then we've got your ERS, and then we've got the advanced. Now, there's no saying that ERS is any lesser value than advanced, because if you get a good rider come along and they can go through the modules, then why not build them back up to that level? So as a standalone, it should be seen as equivalent to advanced, but we are promoting it and pushing it towards some of the newer riders.
The first thing that, again, this isn't my opinion, this is just coming through feedback regarding what you're saying here. There are some differences of opinion. Some people say people should come back and do ERS after a month or 1,000 miles or something, but there's certainly a lot of people endorsing what you're saying about the very positive opportunity that ATB'S have here to reposition ERS as, in a way, as a new minimum standard. So certainly CBT and DAS minimum legal standard, but when you look at minimum riding standard, ERS, from conversations I'm having, people are excited and very encouraged by the rebranding and the opportunity to reposition it in that way. And what I'd add on to that as a marketeer is, when you look at the numbers, and you've just said 45 to 50,000 tests, if the industry retained 10% of that, if they retain 10% of the ERS business inside the ATB before it's left the doors of the ATB by and large, And that's the other thing that's been fed back very positively this last 7 to 10 days. If there's maybe a slight paradigm shift in thinking, and if ERS is seen as a new standard and communicated to customers from the outset, from the point they walk into the ATB, that okay, if you want minimum legal standards, CBT and DAS, but if you're looking to really learn to ride, if you're looking to be a safe rider and to have full enjoyment of two wheels in the open road, then set your standards on ERS. That's just me feeding back some of the information that's come through to me, Chris.
No, I'd fully endorse that. Passing your tests isn't the end of your journey. It should be the start, so do some extra training. We'd always encourage people to do as much training as they can, make them a better, safer rider. Okay, so there's the logo. This is what we were discussing earlier. It's the Crown logo. It's on a plain scheme, but I think it works really, really well. It's going to be on all our paperwork. It's on all our websites, and hopefully, as the slide says, it will draw people in. It'll explain, it'll let them know that it's been backed by DVSA. Okay, so let's talk about some of the changes we've made to the qualification. So if you're a DAS instructor, all you have to do is do your ERS theory test and hold a current advanced rider qualification. When we say current, we're accepting application for people who've had around 3 years. So anything 3 years or older, you need to go and get yourself another up-to-date qualification. We will accept people who've done the Motorcycle Instructor Association's trainer scheme, and you've got to pass the DVSA fit and proper criteria, as we do with all our approved riding and driving instructors.
Chris, would you clarify what that means? What is a fit criteria?
Well, obviously, as a professional, you need to act in a professional manner. So when we take an application in, we look at their driver history. So if somebody's got a lot of points on their license, that may prevent them from joining the register. Any other history like that, we don't do CRB checks, but if we are made aware of anything on the criminal side, then that may get held against them. We always give everybody the opportunity to explain, how they got into this situation, and they can put stuff to us. So it's not always a closed door policy for people who may have riding points or driving points.
I know, for example, Laura submitted a portfolio. Is that sort of common? Is that common practice that new people that are stepping up to ERS may or may not have the opportunity or requirement to submit a portfolio?
Most people do submit a portfolio back in the qualifications they have. So yeah, they have to send in evidence. So when they apply online, they come through to Nikki Tizard in our team. That's the sort of stuff that she will be asking for them. Most people send in a portfolio of all their training history. And I must just say, I'm really impressed by the vast majority we've seen just recently.
Would you just clarify? I mean, you've had some impressive numbers coming in the last few days.
Well, since it was first muted, what we were doing and changing this, we've had a lot of telephone inquiries from ATB'S and DAS instructors wanting to know exactly how they can come onto the register, what they have to do. And in the last fortnight, we've had over 30 new applications, and there's many, many more in the pipeline. And last week, we've had the first lot of data through from people who've completed ERS courses, and we did 21 last week, which I think is really encouraging as well. So instructor qualification, standards check for ERS lessons. As with all schemes that we administer, we will be doing standards check. So we'll be coming out and having a look at what you do, have a look at the training, and it will be based on the standards check form that you'd be familiar with if you're a DAS instructor. The minimum score for that is 43 to stay on the register. So that's the higher level of a pass. So if it was graded AB, it would be an A. We set it at that following discussions within the industry, because we feel that an ERS instructor should maintain that high level of competence to stay on the register. Now, if you do a standards check and you don't pass it, don't panic. You can get some development and we'll come out and see you again. So you will get a second opportunity. However, if you did fail that, then you would be taken off the register. We will give you the opportunity to get some further development and then resubmit an application. Now, if you don't have a ERS pupil, we will allow a CBT standards check to be taken. And again, the score's the same. You still got to get 43. You still got to show that you're hitting those high levels of instruction. Just to reiterate that, if you don't have if you are due a standards check, you don't have a pupil for your ERS, then we will allow you to take your standards check and delivering CBT as normal. And again, I think I've just mentioned that if you do score between 31 and 42, we will retake your standards check. We will give you time for some development to take place. So just like the normal standards check process that you're already, or the instructors are already fully familiar with, we'll go out, we'll assess you. There'll be a debrief. We'll explain the pros and the cons of the session, and if you are unsatisfactory, there'll be some feedback and, like I say, some time to develop, and we'll come back and see you again. So if you did take a standards check as an ERS instructor or as a CBT instructor there, and you were unsuccessful in that, they failed to meet the minimum requirement, you could be removed from the CBT register. Nothing's changed with that. That's historic. That's the way we've always done things. Most people who fail a standards check are given time to improve, offer some development through the debrief, and then we come out and we do see them again. And as a CBT instructor, unlike car ADIs, CBT instructors sign people off CBT, and they can put a rider on the road unaccompanied. That's why the standards have to be maintained and kept high. Since we changed the standards check process, the results have been really positive. Many of the ATB'S are scoring really highly, so I'm really pleased with that. Most people have got a really good grasp of how the standards check process works, so I don't see that as being any sort of issue for people delivering ERS. I expect them to be the ATB'S better instructors anyway, and people within the ATB who want to join the ERS register, I expect them to be developed within the ATB to be able to obtain and maintain these standards. If you are unsuccessful and you do get removed from the register, then you will have to retake the theory test and hold a current recognised advanced rider qualification. But we will also be expecting some kind of portfolio of any development that you've taken before we'll consider your application. So it's about maintaining the standards. So if you're an ERS only instructor, and there's not that many of those, the register is predominantly DAS instructors, and all the new people coming onto the register are predominantly DAS instructors. And then we have an application from an ADI today, who's got the car equivalent, who's a key motorcyclist. So there's a lot of crossover with their qualifications there. So they've got to meet the same sort of DSA fit and proper criteria. They've still got to do a theory test, but they can do some training with an external training provider. And again, they will receive a standards check. Again, the score will be 43. The rules are the same, whether you're a CBT and DAS instructor or you've come onto the ERS register through different qualifications. So the registration fees, they're unchanged from when we launched the scheme. 12 months is still £90, 48 months is £240. Now, all instructors have been issued a new certificate, and if you haven't received a new certificate or applied for one, contact Nikki Tizard tomorrow, and I'm sure she'll help you and sort that out for you. We do expect everybody to have a duty of care through their insurances, public liability, professional indemnity insurance, if you are conducting any kind of motorcycle training. So we talked about the syllabus. So initially the syllabus was... when we worked with the stakeholders, one of the complaints was that the syllabus was too big, it was too broad, and what they were looking for was some core elements that people had to complete. So we came up with what we've launched. So we've got initial assessment, which is where the rider will go out, they'll have their riding looked at and scored on the traffic light system that you may have seen if you've downloaded the logbooks. Everything should be client-centered as we're pushing through with the standards checked. There'll be some theory, some PPE discussion, what the rider's wearing, are they safe to be taken out on the road, and obviously a pre-course discussion. It's all the normal stuff that all the good ATBs are already doing. I'd like them to explore their habits around OSM, PSL or IPSCA. So what kind of system do they use when they're riding to assess themselves, to assess what's going on ahead of them? How do they use the mirrors? When do they use the mirrors? So I would expect that to come out in the initial part of the assessment. The assessment right should cover slow control. It's a big thing of mine. I think a lot of riders can ride very well fast, but not many can ride very well slowly. So slow control skills are really important, especially in the inner cities, especially when filtering and things like that. And then they'll be taken out on various road and traffic conditions, so urban, rural and motorways. Should be a really varied ride so that the rider can show off what they're good at and maybe give the chance for the instructor to identify some of the areas that they may need some improvement on. That will be followed by a debrief and feedback. So the core modules, once they've done the initial ride, they may be very good at some parts of the syllabus but may need some improvement, some instruction over the other parts. So core module, structured planned approach to riding, That's the OSM, the OSM PSL, the IPSCA stuff. Defensive riding, hazard awareness, progress, use of speed, overtaking and filtering, bends and cornering, slow control, and developing the right attitude. The developing the right attitude should come through the whole syllabus, not just as a module on its own. So the right attitude to speed, overtaking, how they take their bends. That's the theme that comes through everything. Looking at the core modules, I think if you put 100 ATBs in a room, they'd all come up with the same key things. I think it is the key part to most people's riding, the things that they need to be fully aware of before they can go on and do any of the additional modules. Have you had any feedback on the core modules, Jez?
I'd say overall positive opportunities to bring specific areas of training to parts of the biker community that need those specific parts of training. One of the ones I know has been very well received is the courier riders. I don't know whether that applies to the whole of the UK or whether that applies just to the city areas, but certainly the feedback we're getting there is that's well received, and there are a lot of ATBs around the UK that feel qualified to deliver that already. So I know you've got to bulk it out with some lesson plans.
There's certainly been a huge increase in especially food delivery riders, hasn't there, over the last few years. So if we can encourage them to do the core and some of the additional models of ERS, I think that's be a really good thing. Looking at the modules, I think the key thing is it's all about safety. It's all about improving the rider's safety and knowledge. Some of the key areas where that they may come within the risk elements. I'm really pleased with how it's looking, and it's good to get some feedback on that. So the additional modules. Now, these are the first ones we've been working on. There's still a lot of work to do on the additional modules. We've launched ERS because we're aware it needed a big refresh, but that's not the end of it. We're going to carry on working. We're going to carry on and hopefully very soon produce a syllabus for some of these additional modules. We're working with the blood bikers. We've got a contact within DVSA who works with blood bikes, so we're speaking to him, and we're hoping to set up a meeting very, very shortly. We've actually been invited by another ATB to come and look at how they deliver part of that module, so hoping to take them up on that and get out and have a look at that. Riding abroad, what should that look like? If you look at the syllabus we produced on the sheet, there's a small bit of information there, but I still think it needs fleshing out. We've just discussed riding for work and how there's been a massive growth in that area. And again, if you go down to London, Transport for London do offer courses on that. Can we mirror that and move that around the country? Can we get people who are riding for work, maybe on L plates, some extra information around that? Carrying a passenger load, most people don't carry a passenger, or when they carry them for a first time can be very nervous around that. So I think it's really important if you're taking someone on the back that you know how to do it safely. Motorway and dual carriageway, so although they're covered in the initial modules, it would be an advanced level on that, as it would be with the filtering and then effective braking techniques. I think it's really key that we teach that to that next level, how to use the bikes brakes really, really efficiently. So a few more: group riding, handling the scene of an accident, maintenance and machine awareness, mobile GPS radios and Bluetooth, training in an alternative environment, and possibly some more additional modules as necessary. I've done some training in an alternative environment. I've done some off-road riding, done my level 1 and level 2. I found it a huge benefit to my road riding. It gave me far more confidence in the wet and in slippery conditions, and if it's taught properly, I think that's a really, really good thing for people to go and do. It gave me, like I said, so much more confidence. Group riding is one of the things we teach at Cardington for our riding examiners when they're on their training course. It teaches people a discipline. It teaches people to be more aware of what people are doing around them. And if you are going out with some mates, I think it's a really, really good thing to do. Handling the scene of an accident, certainly not a pleasant thing to come across, but I'm sure we can produce a module and some further information on some of the key things that people can do to handle an incident really efficiently. So, launch progress. As you'll have seen, it was launched quite successfully. I think at the back end of June. So all the digital stuff has now been completed. Gov.uk has all been updated. We had a little glitch with the certificate issue last week, but I've been told that that's now been sorted. Again, if anyone does have any problems, please do contact us straight away. We can get working on it. We're looking at the data tracking. We've had our first, 21 ERS courses come through where we've got the data, where we've we've issued a certificate, so that's really positive. People in our comms and media team have been working on Twitter and Facebook Think campaign, and that's going to continue throughout the year. And really importantly, we've been issuing leaflets and posters at all test centres. So every test centre that delivers module 2 should have a poster in the waiting room or in the motorcycle examiner's room, because they tend to have a separate waiting room or a separate brief and debrief room there. And every successful candidate has been given a leaflet, a flyer, which you can see online. And as an ATB, if you signed up to ERS, you can download yourself. Next steps, join the scheme. So I'd encourage all ATBs to, be able to deliver ERS. I think it's a really key thing to do. I think it's really important that, as I said earlier, that once you've passed your test, that's not the end of your learning cycle. Do more, enjoy your riding more, as the information says. Get more out of your motorcycling and promote the scheme. I think it's really important that the ATBs promote the scheme as well as DVSA. I think one of the big failings last time was we did a lot of promotion. We did the bike shows, we had the posters, we had the leaflets, but when we did have some budget cuts, then that was drawn back, and some of the ATBs didn't take up that standard. They didn't promote it as well as they perhaps could have been. I mean, reiterate, there's 45 to 50,000 candidates take their test every year and pass their DAS test. There's a big captive audience there. And I think if the idea of taking ERS is sold when they first come to your ATB and when they sign up for that DAS course, start the work then. I spoke to some of the ATBs and they're selling their DAS courses with the ERS bolted on already. So you pay for your DAS course and your ERS when you first sign up with them. That encourages them to do ERS and kind of captures that captive audience that you've already got. Link your website to gov.uk. So link the links on gov.uk onto your own website so that people can have a look at your website, have a look at the information you've got, but then go away and have a look on the DVSA website. And we're going to constantly update ERS. We're going to constantly update our web pages. Like I say, it's not a finished product yet. We're still doing lots and lots of work on the next phase of it, fleshing out the additional modules, fleshing out some syllabuses for that. And if you've got any ideas of a module that we've not covered or you think that should really be on there, then feel free to contact us, and we're happy to continue to work with stakeholders.
Shall I let you introduce the next chap?
Thanks, Jez. Of course I can. This is Simon. He's going to talk to you about ERS and his findings from running RMT.
Okay, over to you, Mr. Hayes.
My name's Simon Hayes from VideoBiker. In my opinion, the new DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme ticks all the boxes for the industry to implement a new brand for post-test motorcycle training. There will be some initial teething problems with this syllabus and the direction where the Enhanced Rider Scheme is heading, but it's my belief that if the ATBs and instructors work together, we will see a very fruitful and lucrative business strategy. This is because learner riders will not simply disappear out of the door after passing their Module 2 test, but will be encouraged to take further training by staying within the professional training environment to continue basic advanced training, which is now known as the DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme. What this actually means to the ATB is more profit. Customers are on their own bike and using their own fuel. There's no wear and tear on your motorcycles, with no tax, MOT or insurance to pay. So the maintenance and running costs are drastically reduced. There is no need to reduce the training price to deliver the DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme. Qualified professional instructors are training at a higher level, and the cost to the customer should demonstrate this. You are giving higher levels of education using advanced training skills and techniques, and this should not be cheap. It's common knowledge that if you went to a hairdresser's and wanted the best haircut, you'd pay the top stylist. If you wanted to pay cheap, then you get the junior. So don't fall into the trap of charging less because running costs are lower. Profit is not a dirty word. Professional instructors should get paid more than they do. So ask yourself a few questions. Why charge peanuts? What are you worth? Are you really worth so little to be charging less? So why charge cheaper rates? Is that your true value as a trainer? Or do you train up to a standard or down to a price? Together we can craft and create a brand new service for all new learner riders and ensure that they see the DAS course as a start of their process and not the end of their training with the ATB. The DVSA has asked the industry to step up as they cannot do this alone. We are the training experts and can give positive feedback, guidance and advice. If you're interested in getting involved in helping to create something special with the DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme, you'll need to get in touch. So what we'll do is we'll develop lesson plans and guides that can be shared amongst qualified trainers. So get in touch now or at the end of the webinar to let us know your interest. And then what we'll do is create all lesson plans and then present them to the DVSA for their seal of approval. Once complete, these lesson plans will be available in the VideoBiker ATB hub in the DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme section for all instructors to freely use. This way, we'll have an industry standard and one that we've all had a hand in creating. In my opinion, it's now the right time to pull together and get this working for the professional sector of the motorcycle training industry and ensure that ATB'S start to make the right changes for our future. The DVSA have given us a vehicle to use. It's now time for us to get in and drive it. Now to have a look at a case study. VideoBiker has a number of case studies already plotted out, but the one I'm going to talk about now is using a riders club to generate some further income and to keep riders safer after they've passed their motorcycle test. Another couple of case studies that we've looked at and implemented are using a day's training once a month as a basic introduction to advanced training. And basically what that does is gives a group of, say, 10 riders the ability to come together, learn how to ride in a group with second-man drop-off. Also to have a look at a topic within the advanced training syllabus and deliver a small presentation on a certain topic, which kind of gives a little bit more knowledge and education to someone who's just starting out on the road after they pass their test. Because basically passing the test isn't good enough for somebody to head off into Wales for the day or up into the Lake District or Peak District. So by giving a bit more of a informal training package, it creates the opportunity to talk to new customers and to bring them back in for further training, maybe on a one-to-one basis. Some of the other brilliant ways in which ATB'S have started working with local authority is to become a preferred supplier for the training that they're delivering to reduce the accident rates in that area. And the local authority then allocate an ATB to do the training on their behalf, and they make a substantial contribution into that training program where the customer may only pay between £20 or £50 for a full day's training. So to look at the first case study, which is the Riders Club. Basically, as an ATB, we had a lot of riders who used to ask if we did anything for new riders who just passed their test. And our primary aim for setting up the club was to help new riders get together with like-minded people and to have a group of friends who they could ride with. So what we did is we assigned an instructor on a monthly basis to the Riders Club. And this became a social ride, giving some low-level education and some advice, but it wasn't full-on training. So a ride would have some key helpers who'd been taught group riding anyway. And you'd have a lead rider who kept the pace constant and kept everyone together. And you'd have a tail marker if you were doing second-man drop-off. And that way that person would stay there all the way through that ride. But these rides were very organised and everyone knew what to do. And everyone stayed together as a group because that's what it was all about. But new and inexperienced riders could see how others in the group were riding. And it gave a natural progression for further training for the training school, having a steady supply of Enhanced Rider Scheme customers. So during a 4-year period, we trained 20 to 30 people a year on average, who undertook about 3 days training as part of their Enhanced Rider Scheme course. Because they're in the Riders Club, we gave them a discount and they only paid £150 for the day rather than the full amount that we actually charged at the time. So looking at that, £150 a day times 3 training days is £450 per customer. Times that by the 20 people that we trained per year, and that's £9,000 per annum. And then obviously over a 3 or 4 year period in this case, the turnover was around about £36,000 for us to be involved in the club, and that's what it generated for the ATB. Even with the lowest conservative figures, the sales and profit margins for the ATB were quite significant. And this is because the running costs for delivering this training were minimal because riders were on their own machines. The new riders were hungry for more information, and at least 20% of them continued with their development and went on to further advanced training with the ATB to obtain advanced riding qualifications. The reason new riders wanted to progress was because they liked the way the instructors were riding. They could see the difference between themselves and an advanced rider, and they were inspired to get better. It sold itself. We really didn't need to sell any courses to anybody, as the riders sold it to each other. The new riders were advised by the better ones to do the course. Everyone realised how important basic advanced training was under the banner of ERS. Our aim was road safety. It was to develop new riders into better motorcyclists and to help them improve. This would give them confidence to ride on their own in groups, give them an understanding of how to be safe amongst other riders, and more importantly, how to be safe. Once they'd had enough guidance and they'd gained confidence, they organised their own group rides and even started to venture further afield and started riding abroad. Our unique stepping stone had done its job. We guided them safely from novice to safe, experienced riders who now had the tools to go it alone. The motto was always to have fun and get home in one piece. There are many ways in which an ATB can develop a riders club. You can create something that works just for you. So if you want any further information on the case studies we put together, join VideoBiker ATB Hub to gain access to the DVSA Enhanced Rider Scheme, and all the case studies will be in there.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much for putting that together. What we're going to move on to next is some questions and answers. But before I do that, I just want to just quickly raise a point I made earlier, which is the retention of income into the industry. And that's, you know, from a business perspective, that's one of the key financial benefits, isn't it, with ERS, is that you've got these 45,000, 50,000 people passing their direct access, and ERS is a direct opportunity to retain. And I was absolutely fascinated when Simon put that case study together and actually quantified it from a financial point of view. Anyway, let me just, Chris, I don't know if you've got anything to say about that while I just get the next slide up.
No, I think it's really interesting from my point of view. Obviously, I don't get involved in the costs or anything, but to see what an additional benefit it is to ATBs is quite astonishing. So I don't understand why ATBs aren't pushing it more themselves. I think it's really, really key, not just for their business, but from a road safety point of view, that promote this. They should be really promoting this to help their own businesses.
I wonder whether it's that paradigm we talked about, the paradigm of positioning ERS in a different way, in a way that firmly benchmarks it as a minimum standard to aim for. Anyway, listen, don't answer that, Chris. I'm going to dive straight into the Q&A now. So I've got some guys lined up here. We're going to go first of all. We're going to go straight over to Tony Baker from Aintree. Tony is obviously a motorcycle training instructor, very experienced guy. And whilst he is CBT and obviously a DAS instructor, what interested me is he's very keen to move exclusively into promoting ERS. So over to you, Tony.
Hi, this is Tony Baker. Hi, Chris. Hi, Jez. And hi, everybody else. It's good to be talking to you. I've got a question. I'm very encouraged by the ERS relaunch, but do have different views about where the ERS is being positioned. In the hands of experienced DVSA instructors, ERS should sit alongside IEM and ROSPA. I'd like to see the industry take back some of the ground, and ERS is the obvious vehicle. My question, Chris, how will the DVSA consistently work alongside the industry to help us to promote ERS and get it to where it needs to be? Over to you, Chris.
Thanks for that. Just to pick on your earlier point, the position of it, I think we've covered that now, hopefully. Hopefully it's quite clear why we've done what we've done. What we're going to continue to do, well, there's been some media around it. We had the article in Motorcycle News with Mark Wynne, hoping to do some follow-up work on that. We're going to continue to provide posters for test centres, leaflets for the waiting room, and leaflets for candidates. That's not going to stop. There's not just one batch. We're going to continue to provide them. And then we've got our social media. We've got the DVSA Twitter account. We've got the DVSA Facebook account. And then we've got links with other parts of the industry. So we can use our DFT contacts with the Think campaign and the Think Bike campaign. And we're working alongside Highways England on a number of things. So hopefully maybe we can get them to give some input into the promotion of it as well. So, you know, we've launched it. It doesn't just stop there. We're going to keep going and keep going. We're going to keep promoting it and, you know, hopefully make this a success that it deserves.
We're going to jump now to Alan Kelly, who runs Scott Riders with Heather up in Dundee in Bonnie, Scotland. Beautiful part of the world. I think we used to live up there a great many years ago. Alan is also obviously a very experienced CBT DAS instructor, but also a great advocate of ERS. So let me just see if I can get Alan onto the call.
Hi Chris, it's Alan Kelly here from Scott Riders up in Dundee, Scotland. We've been involved with ERS from the outset and issue certificates regularly. I love the simplification of the ERS certificates and the way the paperwork's all done, but the question I have got relates to the new modules, specifically the extra modules. I'm not totally qualified to deliver all of these, and I'm wondering if the DVSA can put together a directory for existing trainers so that we can refer to other ERS instructors if somebody specifically wants off-road or blood bike training, that kind of thing. Over to you, Chris.
Hi Alan, again thanks for the positive response. Something I hadn't thought about. I thought about the additional modules and who can deliver it and who can't deliver it, and I think that needs to be a little bit of self-regulation within the industry. You know, clearly if you're delivering ERS but you've no knowledge of the blood bikers, then you shouldn't be delivering that model or module. Like I did say earlier, we're hoping to produce some information on that and maybe a syllabus for that through our work with the blood bikers. So that's things to look out for in the future. As for a list of who can do it, I would push that back to the ATB'S. You've all got websites, or you should all have a website. You know, if you're going to sell ERS and sell it properly, how about listing that? You know, which modules you can deliver, which modules you can't. But it's certainly something I'll take away with me, and you know, on this next phase of work that we're going to do on ERS, it's something I'll put to the stakeholder group and see if we can come up with something like that. See how practical it would be.
Okay, sorry I'm moving forward really fast and not giving people a chance to respond, but I'm just aware of the time, Chris. So I'm going to move now straight to
Okay.
Paul Dickinson. Paul is a well-known, experienced instructor from Bristol. He runs advanced rider training, CBT DAS, and does actually at the moment exclusively ERS as well. So Paul, let me just see if I can get you.
Good afternoon, Chris. Thank you for for the opportunity to put this question to you. My name is Paul Dickinson, Advanced Motorcycle Training in Bristol. I'm a strong advocate of post-test training, and especially that full-time DVSA instructors are best qualified to deliver it. Frustratingly, recent years have seen other organisations cornering the market. The industry needs to make a stand on this and let the riding public know the value of ERS. So my question, Chris, working with the DVSA, what can the industry do to raise the status of ERS and to encourage more participation from riders at all levels?
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thanks for coming on. I think, again, we have touched on this several times. I think it's down to, you know, the training schools to, you know, do more with these people that you bring in for tests. You know, 40 to 50,000 candidates come for tests every year. It's about selling the product to them as soon as they come into your ATB. As I keep saying, we're going to continue to push this. We're going to continue to build it. We are aiming it at those newly qualified riders, you know, those riders that do come to our test centres. So like I said, they will all be getting a leaflet. Hopefully they'll see the posters. When you bring your candidates to the test centre, you know, give them a nudge and show them that we're advertising the scheme, and you know, hopefully get them to understand how much importance we do put on it.
Okay, we're going to go now to South Wales, to a very, very busy training school, Bike Train Wales, with Julian Nichols, and Julian's got a great question to ask. So Julian, if you're on, let's pass over to you.
Accident rates are running high in South Wales, and we 100% see a place for ERS. We want to embrace it, but need reassurance from the DVSA that they will be increasing standards, not decreasing them, and that those who go the ERS route only be fully standards checked to ensure they are fully skilled to deliver ERS. Personally, I'm not sure that the ERS only route is a good idea. Your comments appreciated.
Good question. Okay, again, we touched on this during the slides. We will be standards checking all people on the register. We are aware that people come on from other walks of life. A lot of the people who are on the register who aren't associated with an ATB do hold a lot of external qualifications. So we shouldn't dismiss them and the value that they can add to the scheme. We've got a lot of ADIs who are car instructors who also deliver ERS. We've got a lot of motorcycle police officers who have been working in other parts of the road safety field who are also delivering ERS. But I can assure you, everybody will have to pass the standards check. The standards check mark, as we discussed in the presentation, has been set at the higher threshold, and hopefully that way we will maintain standards and we won't devalue the scheme, because that's certainly not what I want to do.
Okay, that's fantastic. I think, Chris, that's actually the end of the Q&A. I did have one more, but I can't get to it right now. So let's move on. Have you got any kind of summary points that you'd like to make?
Just touch on what we said at the beginning. You know, certainly for the question that you did have keyed up, if you want to send that across to me, I'll happily answer, give them a personal answer on that. Anybody that's got any questions, if they feed them back through you, like we started with, and then get them sent over to us, either me or Billy, who works with me in the team, we'll get some answers for you. I think the key thing to add is, you know, this is only the start of ERS. There's still a lot of work to do. We do acknowledge that. We've still got a lot of work to do on the syllabus, but we'll be continuing to do that over the coming months. You know, and hopefully we'll have a scheme that everybody's proud to be associated with.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, guys, those of you that are left on the call is a very good number. I'm going to ask you, would you take time? You stay on the call for a reason. You're interested in ERS. I'm going to assume you've got something more to contribute. So I'm going to ask for some more feedback. You've got two ways of doing that. You've got members@videobiker.co.uk. Send us an email, mark it for the attention of Chris Parr, and we'll be collating anything you share with us, along with what we've learned over the last 7 to 10 days directly with Chris, and Chris can bring that into his stakeholder group and deal with 1 or 2 questions, no doubt, personally with you. The other way you can do it, 0121 270 6620. If you ring that number anytime in the next 48 hours, leave your message live, and we'll collate that, we'll pass that straight on to Chris. It's only really with that feedback and with, as Chris has alluded to, with the collaboration of the industry that this can be developed further, and we're really keen to ask you to do that. Just want to very quickly just thank once more Helite, and also thank Take a Bite. You've got those offers. They'll be sent out to you anyway. You probably already had them in the post. So it just remains to thank Chris. Chris, thank you to you. Thank you to the DVSA. Thanks for your openness to running with this webinar. I think it's been very well received. We've had some really great numbers on that. And thank you to all you instructors and ATBs that have taken the time at the end of a no doubt very hot day to extend your work hours and come and join us. And I think Laura's probably put a little survey up for you. We're very interested to know whether you think this is a useful way of communicating information, and whether you'd like to see more ATB and instructor-specific webinars in the future, and maybe even what you'd like to know. If you've got some subjects that you'd like to see covered by other instructors, by other ATBs, or by the DVSA directly, then again, include that in the feedback, and we'll take a look at it and we'll take it seriously and see what we can do for you. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Jez.
Chris, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for hosting this. Really appreciate it.